Module 2, Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, CYFEA. Module 2, Learning Objective. Explain the law in Alberta that helps keep children and youth safe from abuse and neglect. Module 2, Do you know? True or false? The Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, CYFEA, is the law in Alberta that helps keep children and youth safe from abuse and neglect. Sorry, the correct answer is true. The Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, CYFEA, is the law in Alberta that helps keep children and youth safe from abuse and neglect. You're correct. The Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, CYFEA, is the law in Alberta that helps keep children and youth safe from abuse and neglect. Module 2, Child Intervention Legislation. The Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, CYFEA, grants authority for service provision to children who are or may be at risk of being abused or neglected. CYFEA defines when a child is in need of intervention, outlines the steps for intervening and providing services, guides and explains the rights of the parents, guardians, and children affected in situations where a child is in need of intervention, helps to make sure families receive the care and services they need, whether the child or youth is at or away from home. Module 2, The Act. Child intervention services are guided by the Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, CYFEA. This act is based on a set of principles about children, families, and communities. These include principles like keeping the family together is a main priority. A family is responsible for the care and supervision of their children. With the support of the community, most parents and guardians are able to protect their children from harm. A family can draw on informal community resources, such as schools, public health, churches, youth groups, and other helping agencies to help them care for their children. All children and youth should be supported to maintain connections that are important to them, to their own culture, and given the opportunity to practice their beliefs while having a plan for their care. Indigenous expertise must be honored and respected in matters involving their children, youth, and families. Module 2, CYFEA, Section 1, Sub 2. As per CYFEA, a child is in need of intervention if there are reasonable and probable grounds to believe that the survival, security, or development of the child is endangered because of the following. A. The child has been abandoned or lost. B. The guardian of the child is dead and the child has no other guardian. C. The child is neglected by the guardian. D. The child has been or there is substantial risk that the child will be physically injured or sexually abused by the guardian of the child. E. The guardian of the child is unable or unwilling to protect the child from physical injury or sexual abuse. F. The child has been emotionally injured by the guardian of the child. G. The guardian of the child is unable or unwilling to protect the child from emotional injury. H. The guardian of the child has subjected the child to or is unable or unwilling to protect the child from cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. Further definition of what constitutes neglect and emotional injury is built into CYFEA. Module 2. Getting involved. How does child intervention get involved? The well-being of children is everybody's job. Parents are primarily responsible for the safety and well-being of their children, but everyone has a role to play. Families, community members, or professionals should make a report if they are concerned about a child's safety and well-being. We assess every call and referral to determine if a child is in need of intervention. Module 2. Duty to report. Reporting concerns include Duty to Report Section 4, Sub 1. We rely on reports of concern from family, community members, and professionals to identify situations where a child's safety or well-being may be at risk. Reports of concern come to us primarily from justice, police or RCMP, education, community members or relatives. The remaining reports of concern are from health professionals, community organizations, parents, child care providers, and other adults. Module 2. Intervention process. When there are worries about a child who may be at risk of injury such as neglect, emotional and physical injury, abandonment, or sexual abuse, a call should be made to Children's Services. Once a call is received by Children's Services, the file is reviewed and then it is determined as to whether or not the child's risk meets the mandate of the CYFEA, as per the Matters to be Considered, Section 2, Sub A through H. Module 2. Who has authority? The purpose of this Act is to guide and explain the rights of the parents, guardians, and children affected in situations where a child is in need of intervention. The Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act gives authority to Children's Services delegated workers to assess and intervene when there are concerns the child may be at risk of injury as defined in the CYFEA. How does this information impact your role? Module 2. Delegated worker. Delegated. A delegated worker is one who has been granted authority from the Director of Children's Services to collaboratively make decisions on behalf of a child or youth under the authority of the CYFEA. Module 2. What is a delegated worker? Under Section 129 of the Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, the minister must designate one or more individuals as directors for the purposes of the Act. This person is referred to as the statutory director. To carry out the duties and powers imposed by the Act, the statutory director delegates duties and powers to caseworkers and other persons employed in the administration of the Act. As a result, all decisions and accountabilities in the legislation refer to a director. This means staff who have been provided the authority for various levels of decision-making according to a delegation scheme. Module 2. Levels of delegation. Statutory director. Director. Delegated First Nation Agency and Children's Services Region. Worksite Manager, depending on the organizational structure. Casework Supervisor, Delegated Caseworker, Trainee or Caseworker with Interim Delegation, Licensing Officer. Module 2. An intervention. Sometimes an intervention is provided while the children and youth remain at home. Other times, an intervention is provided when children and youth live away from home in places like kinship care, foster care, or a group home, or explaining adoption and private guardianship for children or youth who need an alternative legal guardian, including who in the parent's extended family network may be able to be a legal guardian. Module 2. Child Intervention Legislation. Sometimes there may be times that a child intervention practitioner is required to also work within the Drug Endangered Act, DECA, or the Protection of Sexually Exploited Children Act, PSECA. Although these are separate acts from CYFEA, DECA and PSECA fall under the mandate of CYFEA, but are very specific in their purpose. The Children's First Act enhances legislation, tools, processes, and policies to improve the security, education, health, safety, and well-being of children and youth in Alberta. Module 2. Test yourself. Fill in the blanks in your notes. The CYFEA blank when a child is in need of blank and provides the legislative base for how these interventions can be utilized to create safety and blank risk. The CYFEA defines when a child is in need of intervention and provides the legislative base for how these interventions can be utilized to create safety and mitigate risk. Regulates is unused. Module 2. The Child, Youth, and Family Enhancement Act, CYFEA. Congratulations! You've completed Module 2. Next, Module 3. Matters to be considered.